Welcome, everyone, to episode number 7 of Ask the Experts. I'll be your host again, Trevor here. And we got with us today quite the crew. We got Brenden, one of the other MVPs, as well as Brian. Brenden from Kehren Development. And Brian, of course, from BizStream. I'm from Harlan Business Systems. And our guest speaker today is Michael Hennessey. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Sweet, perfect. Who's actually from Kentico as well. Going to be talking to us about Odyssey, the upcoming version of Kentico Xperience. So how is everyone doing today? Don't forget that you can chat. We'd love to hear your comments. I see Sean is already there clapping us and cheering us along. He'll be sending this one from the bleachers this time around. Usually he's one of our guests. Let's go ahead and introduce each person here, though, a little bit, because pretty much everyone on here hasn't been on Ask the Experts in a long time. So just a little bit about yourself and what you focus on as an MVP or as a Kentico employee. Brenden, why don't you go ahead and start? What your passion is? Oh, you're really quiet. All right, we're going to skip to Brian while he gets his audio going.
Sure. Can I hear me all right, Trevor?
Yep.
All right. So nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Brian McKeiver. I am co-owner at BizStream and Kentico Xperience MVP. I've been using the platform for over 10 years now, since version 3.1a. And I would say I kind of specialize in the high-level picture of how you kind of use Kentico with other systems when it comes to integrations, when it comes to deploying on Azure with platform as a service resources, and just kind of all-around best practices and knowing how to kind of get the most out of your Kentico Xperience installation.
All right. Brenden, want to give her a shot again?
Sure. How's that sound this time?
Still really quiet. I'll go on. We'll do another tweak on it. As you guys know, my name is Trevor, and my focus is on creating developer tools and making life a little bit easier for Kentico Xperience developers. I've created a lot of different tools in the past. And we're going to actually be talking about some more tools during this one as well. So my main focus is on equipping and helping developers to be able to work in Xperience as best as they can. Michael, you want to go ahead and give a little spiel of yourself?
Thanks, Trevor. Hey, everyone. My name is Michael Hennessey. I am a senior customer success manager here at Kentico. I've been with Kentico a little over 7 years this summer, so I came on right around the switch to version 8. I am sort of the strategic advisor here on our account team for North America. So I work closely with our support, consulting, training teams, as well as our account managers, who some of you may know. So yeah, I'm also interested in ultimately helping, turn your business requirements, your aspirations into successful outcomes with the platform. So really happy to be here. Thanks, Trevor.
All right, and keep in mind that normally we have for our guest speaker one of the community members. Didn't have a volunteer this last time around, so if you want to volunteer and be on Ask the Experts, we would love to have you. Just go ahead and hit me up in Slack. If you don't have access or you aren't on the Kentico Community Slack channel, definitely want to get on there. I'll post a link in a little bit into the chat. And that way you can say, hey, I would love to be on, and maybe there's some project you've done or some issue you've encountered or overcome, or just want to get some feedback and just be part of the experience. Like, this is, the Kentico community is a family, so we love working with each other and helping each other out, and really want to build better sites using Kentico Xperience. All right, we're going to go back to Brenden. Let's try again. Fingers crossed.
Sure.
Hey, there we go. Yep.
Hey.
It's a little on the loud side now, but that's okay. Let's go ahead. Let's go with it.
Let me adjust a couple things here. I think that might be a little better. All right. So Brenden, Kehren, owner of Kehren Development. Been working with Kentico since about 2008. And just kind of adjusting to everything here. I'm probably the person who's used MVP and our MVC and .NET Core the least, but I've learned considerable amounts from everybody in the community here the last 2 years. So really excited to share my experience with learning some of these things and help others out.
He also holds the largest DevNet point ranking system that can never, ever be beaten. So you also always see him answering questions on there. So we always appreciate that. All right. So the topics for today's discussion are mainly going to be around Kentico Xperience refresh number 2. So this came out, I think, like 3 weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago. I can't even tell anymore. Time's just flying by. Which introduced a couple really cool features that we're going to be discussing, and some tools along with those features that came along. So we're going to be talking about the copying and pasting of widgets and I put mood detection. It's technically semantic analytics. Semantic analytics.
You're butchering it.
I am butchering it. We'll let you pronounce it correctly because I cannot. And then we have the forum sections. So we're going to be talking about the difference now between Kentico Xperience 12 MVC and 13 with refresh 2. So Brendan's going to be showing how he resolved some kind of difficulties with using the form builder in 12. And then we're going to go into what this refresh has done to make that easier as well. So you actually have both areas because we have a lot of people that still have a 12 instance and still need solutions. And then lastly, we're going to end with Michael talking about, again, Odyssey and the Saas product. All right. So I'll say, Brian, I know that you came in a little bit near the tail end. Are you ready, or should we skip over you for now?
I am ready if you want to start, or if you want to do something else, that's fine too.
Nope, you're next on the list. So you can go ahead and share your screen and do whatever demonstration you want. You should be able to hit the share button.
All right, give me 1 second. I have multiple windows going on here and multiple computers, and I hope that this is going to work. So we're going to hit the share button. Share screen.
What could go wrong?
I know, right? The joys of live broadcast.
Wow, it wants one screen.
So while we're waiting here, Sean had just commented about Refresh 2 was an easy update, rolled it out last week. And I couldn't agree more. It was something that we did here for 2 clients they're still in development cycle, but tell you what, it was quick and easy. Like we're talking less than an hour to go through, apply it, and do some testing and send it out to the rest of the dev team to do checks. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and we'll get to it. I don't want to steal the thunder, but some of the features in here are pretty awesome. And I also updated the baseline, so the Heartland Business Systems Xperience 13 core baseline is also updated to refresh 2. And we'll be talking a little bit later. Some of the tools got updated as well. All right. Did you try sharing the screen yet?
Yeah, and it didn't like it, but I have something else worked up that I hope this works. So
do I need to?
I
maybe need to stop mine. I always forget. Let me try removing mine. Well, try sharing.
It could be. All right.
Forgot. I need to give you power. I need to enable you for a small fee, of course.
Okay, we're gonna try that again. Share screen. Share screen. And that's not what I want. All right. What if we try this?
We lost your camera now. So we'll see.
Because I'm actually going to try to show it through a camera.
Now, I think what happens is once you share your screen, I need to include it into the stream. So try sharing it again. Let's see if I see it on here because I don't see your screen at all.
Well, hold on. Give me 1 second.
Hopefully we didn't lose him then.
We might too many X's and just dropped him off.
I'll give him a minute or two. Otherwise, we'll hop on to the next topic while he gets things sorted. So we'll see. Anyone hear any good jokes lately? Get some dad jokes. Oh, okay. 1 sec. Add to stream. I see something. Okay, that's back to. Again, I'm back in here.
All right. Can you guys hear me again at least?
Yep. I can hear you again.
Tell you what. Take the next topic first. Give me a second. I'm going to figure this out.
All right. Sounds good. So we're going to move across to form section. So Brenden, you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about what you provided and the tools you provided and what you've done.
So a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is really geared towards Kentico Xperience version 13 refresh 2. So prior to refresh 2, there wasn't a whole lot of functionality around the forms to give it a custom look. In Portal Engine, you used to be able to go through and say, hey, let's go and create an alternative form and give it a custom layout and look and feel and all that other stuff. You could put in all your custom markup, so on and so forth. And with Form Builder, you get the ability to do quite a bit more, but you lose that functionality to create that custom layout. So we have a request pretty often to go through and say, hey, let's split this form up a little bit and make this 2-scroll form that's essentially 2 pages, and break it up a little bit and give some headlines and such. So what I'm going to show today is everything pre refresh 2 that would work in Experience 12 as well as Kentico Xperience 13. And then I've got a little show here that doesn't steal too much of what Trevor's working on from his Bootstrap layout stuff, that just kind of goes over how we essentially accomplish this in release 2 moving forward. So let me grab my screen here.
I'm watching to see if I can share it. Share it, should put it into the studio that I can then put it on there. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna remove mine and add yours. Ha, there we go.
All right. So I've got a repo out here in GitHub too as well that kind of covers everything. That'll be shared out in comments, and you'll see this later on here as well. But essentially what I'm going through here is I've got version 13 hotfix 32, which is one version up from refresh 2. And the reason I did this is simply because I could show you all of this in one project instead of working in 2 projects. So the short story is the code that works for pre-refresh 2 still works in refresh 2 as well. So if you want to take this crazy approach, you still can use this approach. Otherwise, we can go through and just use the new stuff that refresh 2 has. So for all of you folks who are still on version 12 looking for some form customizations, we'll start out here and give you an idea of what I'm looking for. So what I've got here is a contact us form, pretty simple implementation right now. There's really not much to it. In the form builder, we've got just a single section here, and just the base out of the box components that are included, minus the one that I had created here. So a pretty common setup is to have something similar to headline, and then underneath that headline we're going to have some more form fields, and maybe this form field is going to be a first name. We're going to have a last name. So we're going to have some things like this from a demographic standpoint. Then we're going to come in here and we're going to add another headline that's going to essentially come up with another section of this form. So at the demographics, and we're going to be adding another section called personal info. And then here we can add some more text inputs that essentially capture their get some proper punctuation in here. And essentially this is what it's going to come looking like. We're going to have this breaking out by these different areas here. So now that I've got this pretty basic form set up here, I want to show you what this is going to look like on the front side.
And basically, this is, to summarize, right, this is, since we didn't have before the refresh 2 properties on forms, you actually made a form input that you can put properties on to act
Correct.
as an element in there to do your stuff.
Yep. It doesn't store data to the database. It's just a field that you can actually put, these headlines, I guess you would want to call them. And we'll walk through the code here in a little bit and I'll show you what it does. But this is essentially what we're showing here and what's coming up. I've got a little CSS applied to it, but this gives you the ability to break things out and say, hey, here's a specific area of the form. Here's another area of the form. And then there's also some markup that goes behind each one of these that we can, add CSS classes and all this other stuff too. So we'll dig into that here. But this is ideally the end result that we're working with from a Kentico Xperience 12 and 13 pre-refresh 2. So let me give you a walkthrough in the code here. Excuse me. This is again a version 13 .NET Core site. There are a couple components here that I've created, and you can see this in the GitHub repo. But essentially, what I've done here is created this headline input component class, and it's inheriting these headline input component properties. Really, just a pretty simple form component here. Again, it's not storing data. There's no need for it to store data. It's got a couple properties in here that are being added on to that existing property set for that particular component. We're adding headline text, and then we're adding a CSS class. So if you remember in the user interface here, it was not much of a change from what you're used to seeing. Get up here. So we've just essentially added these two fields, and it takes the values from these fields and then outputs it out into that view. So in this view here, I've just set up some basic, a div container with some classes on it. It inputs the CSS class here and then outputs the headline text here. So this is just using static. It's not even using HTML. It's just plain old text. Then you can see on the page, when we've output this here, it ends up showing those wrappers. I don't have a CSS class put in there, but when you input a CSS class, it's pretty simple to style them. I've got a little bit of CSS wrapped around this. I don't remember what I had. There we go. For a class. So I'll input this class in here, and we'll save this and reload this, and you can see it, just takes the style. So this is a pretty quick, easy approach that I've come across. It took me a bit to dig in and understand how to actually build this component, but in the code here, I've actually put links to the documentation on how to build form components and such, and it works pretty slick. So again, this is all pre-version Kentico Xperience 13 refresh 2. What's your guys' input on that? You guys have any thoughts, questions? Again, pretty simple approach, not much to it.
And it really covers the fact that the reason why this had to be done is because you didn't have the ability to put properties. So you're stuck with two options. One is this, which is a great option given the tool set and stuff like that, to allow you to have dynamic elements onto your forms. The other one would have to be to create a form section, but there's no properties on a pre-refresh 2. So you'd have to make one for your demographics and have that own form section, select that, and then the next one, which is huge pain in the rear end, So definitely a great way to work around it in this case. Definitely a clever trick.
So it's worked out really good for us. A couple things I left out here is the registration of this. It's a pretty simple registration, just like we do with any other form component or section or widget, whatever it might be. It's pretty simple to put in. So what I want to cover now here, and I'm going to try and keep it as basic as possible to not attempt to steal what Trevor's showing, because he's got a pretty cool tool as well that works well with this. I've got a bit of a hint here you might have seen. I've created some sections and registered these sections in code, and it's following a simple bootstrap layout, right? Here's a 3-column section. Within this section, we have the ability to configure how wide we want these. As long as they equal up to 12, we should be in good shape. But we can apply this, bootstrap look and layout to it. Pretty simple approach, and start putting in components into these areas. One thing that I've added here is the ability to put in a title, and this can be based on your specific design. If you have a title and some subsection title and then post section text. So Give an example here or two and show you what this looks like. So again, it's pretty simplistic look here. There's not a whole lot of styling around this, but that's easily applied later on. It gives you somewhat similar functionality as what this has, right? With that component headline, but it also gives you, pretty much an unlimited number of possibilities to customize your form based on whatever design you have. So, now looking at this from a front end side here, here's a pretty simple, I guess I don't have any form sections in between here, but it gives you the idea of what we can do with this. So from a form section standpoint, I just went through here and added 4 properties, property classes, and 4 views for this. Gave it a base property that inherits from the iForm section properties. And each one of these sections, the one column, 2, 3, and 4 column layout, have the ability to inherit these properties here that all will pick up the title, the subtext, and the post text. And then in each one of these views, I've got a little bit of logic around checking the title, see if there's a title there. If so, then, input this. Again, these can be customized to whatever your design is. If you're not using Bootstrap or something else, you can customize them however you want. And then essentially outputting content if there's content there, and outputting the form wherever it shows up. So again, it's a pretty simple approach. Not a lot to it. Take a look at the 4 column section properties here. Again, it's inheriting those other 3 properties and takes those properties input and then allows you to output them onto the form here when you're customizing your form.
Sweet.
So again, nothing crazy, pretty simple, but functionality that was there for Page Builder just wasn't there for Form Builder prior to Refresh 2. So any input from you guys? Any thoughts?
Works awesome.
Brenden, could you...
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Brenden, could you kind of compare what you've seen with Refresh 2 and how it's different with form section properties?
Yeah. Being able to create sections was pretty easy before. You could actually create these sections and do what you wanted. The downside is you didn't get the functionality to actually add those properties. So being able to go in and edit this now essentially gives the people who are coming from Portal Engine the same functionality as they had before, which is really nice. The people who haven't worked in Portal Engine before or who are just brand new to Kentico Xperience, this would be something that they would expect out of the box and not have to go around this route here and create a custom form component for. So from a developer standpoint, it's kind of night and day. From an end user standpoint, it could make or break whether or not they decided to use this tool versus some other tool.
Or have to create just a custom form and just not use the form builder.
Right. Yeah, there's always that too, writing your own custom HTML to get this same setup here in controllers and then just take away from the out-of-the-box functionality that Kentico offers. So, that's one of the things that we typically look for is to use as much out-of-the-box functionality as we can and write some custom code around the minor changes that the client needs. So if they want to split this form up to look like this and have these headlines and these other sections, then let's find a way to do that instead of essentially reinventing the wheel.
So speaking of reinventing the wheel, or now repeating the wheel, I should say. So I'm going to probably hop in and show my own version of that's okay, Brenden.
Yeah, I think that's great.
As you guys know, one of the tools that I created way back in Portal Engine was the Bootstrap layout tool. And it's been a very popular tool We brought it into MVC to allow you to use the page builder functionality and have your different sections and be able to organize them. But again, without properties in the form sections, I couldn't do the Bootstrap layout tool in the form sections, right? Which made it rather difficult. And just like, Brenden had, a lot of people still use Bootstrap. There are other platforms out there, but it's still a very popular platform for creating your responsive sites and things of that nature. So I want to show now a little bit of my own implementation, same exact principle, just using the Bootstrap layout tool. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. So for those that are using the Bootstrap layout tool or have not used it and want to, it's up on NuGet. It's up on the GitHub repo. So you can take a look at my Kentico Dev Trev. And there's the Bootstrap layout tool. And of course, up on NuGet, you can look up the Bootstrap layout tool. And we have two flavors of it. We have one with the page builder containers and one without. And this kind of ties in also to what Brenden had, because sometimes you want to have a wrapper around your section, put in titles and things of that nature. So here we have a context.
Before you get into this, Trevor, I want to say that this is probably one of the more complex tools that I like that you have. It really works well. And I think once people take a look at this and see, they're going to probably take advantage of it if they have or are using some kind of Bootstrap setup on their site. It really makes the implementation a lot easier than the simple setup that I've got. So looking forward to seeing what you have here.
So here we now have the Bootstrap layout tool. All right, we're going to take a look at the properties, and it looks almost the same as the Bootstrap layout tool in the page builder. Has a lot of the same things, except a couple variations, because Bootstrap has its own theming and structure for forms, right? So one is you have a class called form-group that can exist in different spaces depending on which flavor of the Bootstrap form you're doing. So if you look at Bootstrap, this is for. You're going to see that you can have like layouts like this, where you have the label and then the text. You can also do where the label is to the left of the element. There's those variations. You can do inlines. So there's like a lot of variation within this. So I try to make it as usable as possible. So you have the ability to have the form group on the column, on the row, or none. And this is going to depend on which way you want to go. You set your number of columns. Let's do 4 columns. Again, the prepend is pretty standard. We'll do it on the column, and we'll do 3, 3, 2, and 4. Okay. And there we have our Bootstrap section. So you can configure that up. You can change wherever you want. We'll drag in just a couple of our elements into here. Boom. And that one right there. And of course, we'll go ahead and hit, I think it saves automatically. So let's take a look at the page. Contact us page. And here we see now it's starting to form our Bootstrap layout tool. Now, there's different variations again on this. So for instance, this one up here, this has, that's on the column. It was, how did I do it again? It's in the documentation. I'm actually going to bring that up because the form sections has, here we go. So there's 2 pieces of this. So one is the Bootstrap layout tool, right? The other is there still needs to be adjustments to how Kentico renders out the label, the input, other things like that. Because by default, it wraps it in like a div, and then the label, and then a div, and then the control, and then it has the structure to it. And the only way to adjust that is, actually, am I not even sharing my screen? Oh, I am. Okay, good. It's still is through this thing called the form configuration. So it's actually an event hook that allows you to adjust how that structure is, classes to add on, other things of that nature. So along with the Bootstrap layout tool, I have this little helper section code here that you can add to yours. It's also part of the default baseline implementation that does a couple things. One, it strips out a lot of the wrappers around these elements. So it really should just be label and the input, just plain Jane, like not all these divs around it, because that's how Bootstrap operates in most cases. It also takes care of things like the explanation text, put a small class around it. So that way, if you do have like this right here, the tell us what you think, which is the explanation text, that wraps it in that small text, which is just kind of what Bootstrap recommends that you do, that it's a small and form text and muted. But then here we have a couple different variation examples for you. So one is if you're going to be doing the form grid right here, just the basic implementation where it's just, this and this, then it says you should use these options. So do group on column, any number of columns, and set column size wherever you wish, and put various form elements and controls. That's it. Just the basic default will render it out like that. If you want to do a horizontal form, okay, so that's going to be this guy where it's like this. Okay, that requires a little bit extra adjustment. So that's where you now have to set the form group on the row, one column, and first column, do not render a column div. So that's one of the options on there. So you can do this. So let's actually do this one right now. So let's add a new section. And then we're going to do the on row, and then do not render column div. Just like that. Now, it looks weird in the UI, but it would render it properly once it's actually on the page, and then you can put your element in there. And I think for this one, if I remember correctly, then you have to actually add in like your call to your column sizes for each individual element. It's kind of crappy that you still need to go that route, but that's what this is right here. So it knows the first name and the last name, and this section here is configured up to be a certain way, so it can do it. So you have at least the templating for it. And then last, if you want to do the inline forms, which look like this, then you would just follow the instructions, set the form group to none, put on the container CSS form inline, set 1, and then here's our example form, and you're going to add this. So basically, I have some templating that you can do the different styles. If you want to just do the default, which is the majority of cases, you can just do the default and be on your way. So that's the nice part, is that it allows you to at least configure it up. It's a little more complex than I'd like it to be, but that is a thing that you can do. The other part of this, though, is if you get the containerized version. So I have another tool called Page Builder Containers, which is just a throwback to the web part containers. We can put a title, a structure around your rendering, CSS class, and content. You can then select a container. So for instance, if I do a sample container, hello world, let's do alert, warning, and this is some content. And you can do a custom before and after and put like div class equals hi and end div. So you have options to do either HTML before and after, or you can use also the container. And that's just going to use the page builder container. Here's my sample container. So here it is. This is sample container, light gray, as you see here. I'm not using right now the container title, but if I did, like if I do form section, like this, so I can switch this over to the form section. There you go. Now it will render out the container title, put it in the class, put the custom content, and you can be on your way. So it is in the admin. So there's a pro and a con with that, of course. Is the pro, you can make adjustments really quick and easy, put different sections around, put different styling, whatever you want to do. Con, of course, is that you lose it in source control, you have to stage it. But this is a way that you can make some sections, some components, and allow the users to be able to enter there. And just like Brenden had his own where he had the section, the content, whatever, this has at least the default of those base elements in there. And then the HTML before and after, so you can actually render it out exactly as you want. So definitely helps with your rendering of your elements to get things the way that you want it to be. And again, that's available through NuGet, the Page Builder Container, or the Bootstrap Layout Tool, and also the Bootstrap Layout Tool Page Builder Container. And you just download the latest version for the refresh too. And that's pretty much it. So that's a little tool that, again, wanted to present to you guys. So that way you could just install it and be out of your way and start using it. So
Cool,
hopefully
Trevor.
that helps.
That's pretty awesome. Does this have, do you have any issues using your package in .NET Core versus MVC5? Do you have different packages?
I will say that I believe, let me see here now. Container MVC. I will say that's one thing. So, and usually I'm really good about this. I ran out of some time. So I only did the refresh with the form builders in .NET Core versus MVC5. Main reason is, like I said, I've been swamped. And second reason is I don't know of many people that are building in Kentico 13 in MVC5. We definitely do not recommend it at all.
Right. It's much Kentico's faster. Really pushing .NET Core. So
yeah, I mean, and that's something
going that route anyway.
If anyone does, and I'll say this, if anyone does say, hey, I have an MVC5 Kentico Xperience 13 site, and I really would like to use this tool, send me a message, and I will finish the implementation. So I'm really good about updating my tools, but at this point, like, I have so many tools that it gets really, 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 really hard to keep them all up to date. Like, this is my package list of all these and different variations of it. So it just becomes really hard, especially with all the variations of having core, non-core, this, that, the other thing. So it gets lengthy. Cool. All right, Brian, are you ready to do your part? I'm done with mine.
Well, we're going to try. I'm hoping that if you...
I think I can make you full screen. One sec. Let me see if I can. I'm going to try. I don't want to remove me. I want to make... Can I make you here?
There we go. That's what I was hoping you could make me the big screen.
I can do that.
How does that look for everyone?
Looks good.
See it? All right.
That's great.
All right, good. All right. So before I dive into my section, I want to just kind of recap 2 takeaways that everyone who's listening should take from this already. Number one is kind of what Brenden said in terms of the fact that people don't necessarily always work inside of Kentico for their forms. I see a lot of people working outside of it using traditional just MVC standard markup, standard post to the endpoint or whatever, and that is something that does work. We've had to do it, but it's just not really recommended. It's something that if you can take the time to use some of the tools that Brenden and Trevor have shown, it's definitely worth it because you open up so much more flexibility for your business users to just modify forms, make more forms, place forms in other places, reuse forms. There's a lot of benefit to doing that, which is why it's so important to take that away. Okay. The second thing is kind of more about the thing I had second in my head that I'm drawing a blank on all of a sudden, but I'll come back to it. Maybe I think it was what Trevor said a second ago.
MVC5 versus .NET Core.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Brenden. I need more coffee this morning. Apparently, it's been a long morning. Please do not start new projects in MVC5 with Kentico Xperience 13. It's not the best way to do it. You're not going to see the benefits and all the investment that Kentico has placed from an experience standpoint into the .NET Core support. So those 2 things I want you all to take away. Okay. Now I'll dive quickly into my stuff, and I'm going to go super fast because I want to make sure we have time to hear what Michael has to say as well. And there was 2 things on the agenda. One of them is not like super important, but it is just this little nuanced thing that, again, makes our content editors' lives easier, and that's the ability now with Refresh 2 to kind of copy and paste widgets. So what I have here is a Kentico 2 just brand new installation, or Kentico 13 Refresh 2 brand new installation running on my local host. It's got the Dancing Goat starter site. You could do this yourself at very easily. You just go to your client portal with Xperience. You click download. You run the installer, and you select Dancing Goat as your site template or starting site in the installer, and it just kind of puts it all in there for you. Okay, but one of the things well, actually, that's for the second part of the demo. First part of the demo puts all this in, and I'm working on a landing page here. So I have the landing page folder open in the CMS tree. I'm using the wrong mouse, so that's not going to help. There we go. And we have our page builder open, and you can see that we have our landing page with widgets, right? Now, what is very common in marketing world or content entry world is I have this running for maybe a month or two as my landing page, and now I want to kind of make another landing page for the next campaign or for the next set of months, right? And typically what someone is going to come in here who's maybe not as experienced in Kentico Xperience is they're going to create a new landing page to do that, right? They're going to say, I don't know, we'll call it campaign 2 here as soon as my local machine decides to spin up. And they're going to make that landing page, and it's going to have a blank canvas, right? And that's okay. It's not great. There's other ways to do that. You can actually use the page template feature in the page builder to actually make a template from your last campaign. That's a whole nother demo and a whole nother session that, if you're curious about that, I think even Sean Wright, who's listening on our feed, has some great blog posts about it, right? So that's one way to handle it, but that's not new. So what I want to focus on today's demo is the new thing in Refresh 2, which is the ability to kind of take our blank canvas and quickly reuse content that maybe is on our other landing page by copying and pasting a widget. So I'm going to switch back to Coffee Samples, and I'm going to go down and get to that text widget, because maybe I don't want to type in this content again, right? So there is this new little button over here in the toolbar for Copy Widget. I mean, it's very simple, right? We hit Copy Widget. It says our rich text has been copied to our clipboard. We can now use that across the page by adding in our copied widget. And actually, if you look really close on this, I don't know how good it's going to be on the stream. It's actually taking a little, here's kind of what it looks like for you as well when you hover over rich text, as opposed to if I just pick a brand new rich text, it's got nothing because it's going to be empty, right? So I think it's kind of a cool little trick that they did by adding that little preview. So it gives you that little confidence that, oh yeah, that was the thing I just copied. I'm going to paste that in, and there it is. And
I love the preview. That preview is awesome. I just have to say that.
Yeah, that's cool. Notice that it does look a little different, right? And I'm going to do a pop quiz for all the people on the panel here. Why does it look a little different compared to the last page?
It's in a smaller div section.
Right. Well, the other
different section altogether.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have talked about sections this whole time, and that's kind of the differences. And when you have a 1-column section versus a 2-column, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but that's nice that it doesn't fail. It doesn't say, oh, wait, you don't have the exact same section set up as the previous page, because it's more about just the widget itself. All in an attempt to make it easier for our content editors. And I think they've done that. They've done a fantastic job. However, all of this comes with a caveat, okay? I'm very big, and so are a lot of the Kentico practitioners in the community, that there's a major tenet of Kentico Xperience to be a good CMS, and that is, if you find yourself copying and pasting and entering content left and right, the same thing over and over and over, you're probably doing it wrong.
Right.
Okay? The idea is to structure content well once and reuse it in multiple places, because these are copies. If I want to change join our list now to get weekly samples to join our list now to get monthly samples because maybe my business changes, if I change it here, that's going to maybe satisfy my campaign page, correct? Right? Because I have my new content. But if I go back to my original, it's what's it going to do? It's not.
Still weekly.
So that's the thing, is like, yes, this is a cool feature. Yes, you can easily use it to grab content from one place and put it into the other. And sometimes that's great. But if you're doing this for 10 things or 5 things or all over the place, over and over and over and over, you're creating independent copies. And that, from a CMS standpoint, is not a best practice. So with great power comes great responsibility. And if you do need to duplicate that stuff, think about using structured content in a regular page type field. Maybe it's a resource string or something that has one place to edit, and then you can still present it in 2 or 3 places around the place.
I'll also throw out that as an option, having it on the content tree is definitely probably the preferable option. But if you need to have some reasonable thing that is widgets, keep in mind that there's a tool that I created called the partial widget pages, that you can actually create an element that is a widget page builder, and then you can add that element to other pages and stuff like that. So it's one source. that's another option as well to you guys.
Right. And I think, Sean in the chat's bringing up some really good points. The reason I could do that is because there weren't really restrictions going on. I didn't have that sort of setup that said, oh, in this part of my landing page template or this part of my view, I only want these certain widgets, which is a good feature, and you should be doing that. These are like wide open landing pages, and it's kind of like the wild, wild west of anything goes. So that's why I could easily copy it out and think about it. But generally, you do have to be careful about that a little bit if you have restrictions going on with your areas and your sections. So good point, Sean. Thanks for bringing that up in the chat. Okay, that was the super basic demo, and that's why I wanted to go fast. The other thing is a whole different world, and that is what we lovingly refer to as sentiment analysis. And it's something that Azure Cognitive Services gives us that Kentico Xperience has added a default integration in Refresh 2. And that gets me really excited because if anyone knows me or follows my blog, I really like a lot of Azure. That's what I do almost every day at Bitstream, and it's something that is just a personal passion of mine. And you combine that with Kentico being a passion, it all kind of works out. So let's take a look at that. All right. I am back in the same instance. And one of the things that you'll need to set this up to get started is to actually go into the settings to tell the Kentico Xperience that you have a sentiment analysis or a text analysis resource in your Azure tenant that you have to connect this to. And I'll tell you a little story. I was trying to get this ready for this morning, and I started because, again, this is brand new functionality. It hasn't been around for very long. It's not like I have a ton of experience with it. But I started, and I was like, okay, where do I go? And I actually couldn't find anything all that easily. But the help documentation came through, and it did kind of point me in the right direction. That's something that we're going to work on with the documentation team at Kentico. But here's where it goes. If you go into content, there is a new section. There is a new settings property group called text analytics. And in there, you turn on and enable sentiment analysis, and you give it your endpoint that Azure gives you and your key. So this is a real demo key. Please don't steal it. But honestly, even if you do, it doesn't matter because there's nothing really here. That information you get from your Azure portal. And if you've never created a resource in Azure before, it looks like this. It's very simple. You go to the top part of your Azure portal, you say create resource, and you pick a text analytics resource type. You then choose what region you want to put it in, what resource group you want to put it in. I have chosen my speaking demo resource group. I've put it in the East US2 region, and you use the subscription that you have with it, okay? So that gives you the endpoint that you need to put into Kentico, and it gives you the ability to have keys. And probably right after this demo, I'm going to delete this resource, again, from a security standpoint. It's not best practice. So everyone
Looks like you already got everyone commenting that, oh, we can steal real quick. Not a feature anyways.
Okay, so that's all you need to set it up, all right? It takes about a minute to do that. Now that that's set up, I was like, okay, well, what do I do next? Where is this really set up? And that's why I started with the Dancing Goat sample site, because Kentico Xperience has done a great job of providing a scenario for us and a setup. And luckily, I had talked to the guys at the Xperience team, and they told me about this. Otherwise, I would have had a much longer demo to prepare. But if you go to the specials folder, and there's a generator page. And by the way, this has been there for years. This is a great place where you can generate sample data for all the aspects of Kentico Xperience. You can set up contacts, you can set up commerce stuff, A/B testing as it's shown, GDPR demos, all the things that take data to get going to see how it should work. This is a great tool. You go to the generators page, you click the button, and it generates the data. They've added a new one that says Setup Sentiment Analysis Demo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click that. But one thing I learned in doing this, one gotcha, is that it's really tempting to hit it right here in the preview aspect of Xperience, but I've had it time out and not work when it's inside of the admin. So it's a little bit better to do it on the live site. That doesn't have the same restrictions of timeout and things like that. So I usually bump out to the live site to click this button. It tends to work better in case there's some long amount of time that it has to run for. So what I've done is I went to the live site, clicked the button. It's going to set up my data for me. It's actually going to create a marketing automation process for me as well. And that marketing automation process is the key core way to show off how some of this stuff works. So it's still running, but I'm guessing that by now we might actually have the MA process. Again, this is an enterprise feature with Xperience. You are going to need Kentico Xperience Enterprise to do this because it relies on marketing automation. And that's part of the aspect of it being a digital experience platform, having marketing automation. All right.
Do you have the basic analysis on it without that though? Because I know on my baseline I have that, and I don't think my baseline is EMS license, but maybe it is. Not the marketing automation part, but just to be able to get the analysis.
Just the basic part, you're right. Probably don't need it. I'm really speaking to the marketing automation scenario, actually. But good point, Trev. So it actually created a process for me, an MA process that's analyze messages from a contact us form. And when I edit that process, we have our amazing new Kentico 13 marketing automation designer. Because in case you've not seen it, it was redone, and it has a lot more, I guess, niceness and polish to it than previous versions. What we have in here is a process that starts when a contact us form is submitted. Okay, that's where the start trigger happens. It then flows into the custom step that Xperience 13 now comes with, starting with refresh 2. And that step will take the information of the contact us form, pass it to the sentiment analyzer, and detect if the sentiment is neutral or negative or mixed or unknown, right? That's what sentiment analysis is. It takes a blurb of content, runs it through some AI, and it returns to you the factor of how negative or positive, neutral, or mixed things are in that content. At least it tries to as best it can. And based on that response, it will push you through the path of, hey, if the person filled out the contact us form and said, oh, I really hate your service, this is terrible, I'm so unhappy, maybe you want to tell something special to the sales team, as well as send something to the customer who is unhappy with a targeted message that says, hey, I'm so sorry that you have problems with our services. We're going to be in contact with you within 24 hours. We're going to make it a priority. We're going to make it right. That could be this email that the next step sends. And then it can actually say, send a notification inside of your organization to maybe a customer service person that's assigned to your account. Hey, we had an activity here, a form fill that was negative about our organization. Hey, salesperson, maybe you should go have a touch with that customer and help them and work with them to make sure we can recover from this negativity. Or if the analysis responded things are, okay, it's neutral or it's mixed or even positive, you just send the standard, hey, thanks for contacting us. We'll be with you soon, right? So you can kind of see how this can kind of be used to determine what the next automation step should be based off the sentiment of how things are going. And that's, I think, a very powerful way to use this tool. And we did that with just basically setting up a few clicks, setting up the settings, and that's pretty cool, right? There's more to this, but I'm looking at the clock, and I do not want to take any more time. So if you have more questions about this, reach out to me on Twitter, hit up the other MVPs in DevNet or the community Slack, and we'll go through it. But with that, I think I do want to pass it over to Michael to make sure he has time.
And I'll just real quickly just add in there that you do have it also when you're in your content, so you can analyze your own text and stuff. There is a small bug that if you are rich text and it's not in a wrapping div or p tag, then it doesn't work. So that's been submitted. But this allows you to see if it's good or bad. So I want to throw that in there real quick because I thought that was the only that was there. So awesome, Brian, because I just learned something really cool about how to use that functionality in a much more applicable fashion. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, now, Michael, it is your turn. Take it over.
Oh, Michael, you're muted.
You're muted. I'll unmute you.
Thanks.
Oh, I can't.
Actually, do you mind, Trevor, if we just, before we jump into this, if I could just switch my screen, because let me back up before we get into Saas, let me just do a quick Odyssey spiel, and I have just our landing page up for.
Sure. Go ahead and add. There we go.
There we go. Awesome. So thanks, everyone. So we'll take a step back from specific features. This was great, watching the MVPs showcase this stuff. I thought today to start with Odyssey, it might be interesting. Some of you may have already seen this page. This is just available on Xperience.io. when we're talking about the next generation of Kentico and we're talking about Odyssey, I thought it may be interesting to give you a bit more of an inside look at specific challenges that we identified as Kentico as software vendor, and how we feel Kentico Xperience Odyssey is going to address those, and then we'll just kind of move quickly into Saas, which is one kind of specific area to focus on. So there's some stuff up here. Really, there was a multitude of different challenges, and we've kind of addressed some of them already on this call already. From a technology standpoint, I think it was Sean, said it best already. We know, web forms technology has reached the end of its life cycle. Administration interface in 13 is still running on this technology. So even if it's not difficult for you to find someone who can do this work, maybe from like an ethical standpoint, as Sean said, the entire .NET community has already adopted Core and .NET 5, and then like he said, come November we'll be in .NET 6. So we really needed to move on this. Our solution is to adopt that cutting edge technology, and of course have the entire solution running on the latest ASP.NET Core. And we're going to continue to do that going forward. So that's really the main underlying, challenge from the technology perspective. And, there honestly were others as well. From a usability perspective, we kind of mentioned this as well, or Brian, you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but Kentico Xperience 13's administration interface is mostly built on design patterns that are 5+ years old, and they do not always match marketers' expectations. I mean, let's just look at the way workflows looks at in 13 versus, okay, marketing automation, we're starting to get a little better. We can't just have, certain applications in Kentico look good. We really, to attract the marketer and the business users and meet their expectations, we need to, have a superior, user interface. Some other things in there that honestly I'm not as savvy on, and we probably won't get into in this call, but, when we're just talking about the steps that, Kentico Xperience relies on a lot of manual steps to execute marketing strategies. So we are looking towards, machine learning, AI as well. Just jumping back here, there's other challenges too. From like a maintenance perspective, we all know that, traditionally every year Kentico comes up with a new release. It's generally, relatively costly for customers to make that big jump to the next version. Sometimes can lead to customers staying on older versions for longer than maybe they'd like to. So we've already started to implement that seamless update process. So already we can take advantage of the refreshes, which of course we're looking at today. I heard from someone, I forget who it was, if it was Sean or someone else in the chat, that they tried it already. It was great experience. And so we'll get into Saas as even more, kind of help for certain customers who are looking to alleviate some of that maintenance headaches as well. So of course, maintenance is a big reason we're reimagining the future of the Xperience platform. Honestly, just from a business model perspective, there's a challenge not moving towards subscription. The whole industry is moving there. I know even when we're looking at we're looking at Gartner, we're looking at Forrester, they're looking for they're kind of analyzing and measuring software in terms of how well they're, moving towards subscription and meeting customer subscription needs. So we're doing that on the licensing side. We're moving there also in our optional SaaS model, which we'll get into. And I'd say like one of the other just kind of other challenges, which we've also addressed a little bit today, is the market is evolving very quickly. And we're going to see many different ways to make the product better. But, we here at Kentico know as software vendor, it's not possible for us to build everything. So one of our solutions is, and we've seen some really cool stuff already today, Kentico Xperience will continue to existing our relationships with partners looking for third-party technology to make our product better. So that was really cool. Trevor, looking at what you had today, I know, toolkit for Kentico, I can throw that out there, give Bitstream a little shout, but there's lots of really, cool features that are out there from the community, and we want to continue to make Kentico Odyssey a place for that to flourish. So yeah, really, this is just kind of when we're talking about Odyssey, these are like the main challenges that were driving us to kind of move in this direction. One thing we often talk about a lot is, or we get asked about a lot, is what are we thinking about doing with this Saas, the Saas offering? So that's what I can, I guess we have 1 minute left. Should we go over
Definitely go over. We've gone over before. Don't worry about
only a few minutes. Yeah, I don't think it'll be too long.
Don't worry about it. This is recorded. If people, if they need to head off, then they can catch the recording. We've gone over before, so
cool.
Keep on going. Do your normal spiel.
I do apologize, though, guys. I'm gonna have to drop. I have a hard stop.
Okay. Well, Brian has to have a hard stop, but
thanks, Brian.
Thanks for joining us,
Brian.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. And now, Trevor, if you don't mind, now we can switch back to those few slides that I sent you, if that's easy to do.
Yep, that is. All right, so I just need to do remove, add. There we go. And
yeah, if you could just, can you just click through all these and put them all? We don't.
Sure.
There we go. So let's recap. Why Saas? So first of all, what is this Saas? This just to kind of put some really kind of key understandings out there. It's going to be an optional service. So some customers have asked, is it Kentico only going to be a SaaS offering? Kind of like content is. It's not the case. This will be an optional managed service for customers. We are powering this behind the scenes with Microsoft Azure technology. We are currently planning on a few different tiers, and in terms of when we're targeting this, I know we're targeting a soft launch towards the end of this year. So MVPs, maybe some of you on the call today will be kind of testing this out, helping us through that soft launch, and then sometime I think first quarter, second quarter 2022 is when we are looking to actually have around 50 customers or so that will be able to start getting on the SaaS. Some people may remember from the past Kentico Plus. Some of this might sound familiar, right? Have we done this before? So years ago when I was in Kentico, we did embark into our Kentico Plus, which was a similar idea for kind of managed hosting from Kentico. And we learned some, really great lessons from that experience. One thing we learned is, we really want to start simply and scale with increasing automation. So it's one of those things, like I said, end of this year, we'll have a soft launch. We are going to be adding features as we go. Partners will also be, involved and be responsible for actually building code, which is great. And one thing that's maybe just interesting to note too is that, billing, the way we actually do this as maybe a differentiator from other hosting options is that we do this not based on any bandwidth consumption, but on kind of a set tier that you're on. So you have a, reliable rate that you can, move forward towards, leveraging SaaS. Let me just see what we have for the slide here. Yeah, so there's really a bunch of challenges that we're trying to meet with the SaaS offering. There's, when we're talking about data security from maybe less mature clients that have less, web hosting maturity, they want to lean on, an official dedicated space that that doesn't reside on their private servers, in fear of data exposure. They can kind of trust the vendor servers as a, perceived benefit for them. Other things we're looking at as value propositions are, shorter procurement times. Some organizations who are searching for a new software also have to look for hosting options and kind of vet and approve one supplier versus the other. So this can simplify procurement times when we're looking at Kentico. Greater autonomy, sometimes increased speed to market for kind of a similar reason as procurement times. One thing that's really big is significantly reduced upgrade costs. Actually, the way we're planning this right now is that Kentico in each of our tiers here will actually offer a upgrade patches and fixes as included and essentially applied, as seamlessly as possible for this. So it's no longer kind of out there waiting to experience a bug. We're going to be, kind of applying bugs, for you using our 7-day, bug fix policy. And ultimately, we want, more room for growth and for flexibility. So, how are we going to, achieve this for clients? We're going to offer that. You could probably move to the next slide, Trevor, if you have just that final slide. We're going to, provide, end clients with an optional, separate subscription model, so they can, be licensed with us, and they can optionally enter into the SaaS subscription as well, where we'll provide clients with that, secure, compliant, basically easy to use solution for Kentico Xperience web hosting, 24/7, 365 support. like I said, we're going to have that subscription model that, provides customers with greater transparency and flexibility. And ultimately, we're really excited to also have better, I guess we can consider kind of app and stack monitoring. So actually built in monitoring so that we get better insight into how customers are actually using Kentico, where the most painful parts of Kentico Xperience are, without always relying on you guys to have to come and your business users to come and kind of let us know about this. So we're really excited about having that, something we have in the content platform we've been missing for a while in Xperience. Some other things to mention here is that, yes, I mentioned, and you can see on screen that there are 3 tiers here. So this is something we'll be able to provide, I think, a little bit more information as we come, but there's essentially 3 tiers, one for kind of a small business or companies looking for a simple, website on maybe a limited marketing budget. So this will come with, a development, a production environment, a limited amount of media file storage, emails that you can send, and like a 99.9% availability. And as you start to move up those tiers, you'll start to see the next tier, which is for kind of growing and expanding businesses. They get some more media file storage, additional availability. We're moving up to 99.9%. And then even further into that final model, this is where we start to have almost up to, I think we're planning 1,000 gigabytes a month for media file storage, with CDN, distributed caching. Availability moves up into 99.95. So these specific numbers, we're throwing out, these are the things that we'll be definitely releasing and testing through soft launch. But just know that there isn't the sense of being charged per how much your bandwidth actually is. If you fit in one of these tiers, you have that flat rate, and you're kind of covered from Kentico. Anyways, that's a lot of information. I just tried to fire off as fast as I could for y'all. Let me just check to see if there's any questions. Oh yeah, Sean, automate updates in Saas. Thumbs up.
And also, you want to quickly cover what is the difference between this and Kentico content. So you have the Kentico content, you have which content as a service. Now we have the software as a service. What's the main differences that you'd like to highlight for the viewers and stuff like that, and what the niche that's meeting?
Absolutely. And it still falls down to technology suite versus technology stack. So Kentico content is intended and remains to be your content management piece of your stack. So for organizations who are looking to be, to go truly kind of that headless approach, you'll go get your best in breed marketing, you'll go get your e-commerce, you'll get your Kentico, and you have your team to put it all together and kind of maintain that ecosystem. Now, the Kentico Xperience is and will continue to be the technology suite. It's the all-in-one solution. It comes with content management, email marketing, online marketing in general, e-commerce, additional platform features. And so essentially, this is the whole feature set, all in one, licensed, all together, and optionally also managed hosting from Kentico. So what you get all the features you're used to with, quite honestly, more features coming more quickly than they've ever come before in these refreshes, and a lot of the headaches, away from having to kind of maintain this, upgrade this, yourself, depending on your organization.
That's a great point that I'm glad that you hit on there, that this is really the integrated suite together. So it should be relatively no different than if you had a normal Kentico Xperience Odyssey instance hosted yourself or hosted in a VM or something like that. In essence, it's the same software, just managed by Kentico, which makes that another thing to check off the box that you don't have to worry about. And
exactly right.
And like I said, doing the features rollout, that's always, I know for us, we have our clients, we launch the site, and we've launched some that were in 13 and 13 to refresh 1 and 2. It's not hard to apply those refreshes, so that's getting much quicker and easier, but sometimes just it never gets around to it, especially when you get to more major features and things. So that's where having it automatically is like, oh, there it is. And that decreases the cost because you don't have to contact your Kentico partner to necessarily apply those hotfixes. You can focus on them more to do customization and things like that. So Any questions from those viewing and stuff that you like to ask Michael while he's here on the Saas offering? See, otherwise, most people are saying that it's pretty. They're excited both about Odyssey in general, just how fast it is. You know, from the milestones that have been pushed out. And keep in mind that as you guys, if you know any clients that are looking for this type of solution, get them in touch with Contact, get them in touch with Michael, because they want more input. The reason why they have the 3 tiers with the dev and one with the staging and stuff is because they were asking questions about MVPs and others saying, what is your normal environment? Like a lot of our clients have staging environments where they have something and then they push it up to the live site. So that's why that got added in there and things. So they are working closely with the different partners, and I know they're always open to getting some more input. And of course, anyone looking for other features, whether it be on Odyssey or not, keep in mind you can go to experience.io. You can go to the roadmap, which is right under
products.
Yep. And then here is the where is the
very bottom. We moved it just recently.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not as discoverable as it used to be, but we're working on that.
So this is where you can put things in and submit an idea for things for both, Experience 13 as well as Odyssey. So there's more things that they're considering in for Odyssey and stuff like that. Right now, the Odyssey options haven't, changed much. This is the Kentico Xperience is the Odyssey one. The Odyssey is the code name. So yeah, and then you can also vote on things that are important to you. Some things that have already launched, and so they're working on each of these pieces. This is pretty awesome. Thanks, Michael.
Absolutely.
At this point in time, I do think that we are complete. We got through everything. Sorry that we ran over a little bit. Thank you everyone for all the comments as well as a very active chat. We always appreciate all those, especially the usuals like Liam. You're always watching these. And we appreciate that. And Jonathan coming on. So thanks again to our community. Again, if you're looking to join us, please send us a message on Slack so you can be a special guest for the next show. And keep an eye out on the Slack channel for when the next show will be. So thanks everyone again and all of our guests, and hope you guys have a great time.
Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.